Okay. Okay, so here we are. For those of you who are watching the replay, I apologize. I forgot to start recording at the top of this. So we're just going to start the recording now. We just got done talking about the issue of standing up inside closed guard. From here, Greg is doing a good job of keeping good posture, trying to come up to his feet. And eventually he wants to get up to both feet and then to vertical posture. Oh, I think I went back. I think I didn't go back far enough. Where was I? I'm sorry, guys. I got thrown off. There we go. Got thrown off with the discussion. So here we are back where we were. Sorry about that. So here, Greg gets up to both feet. Now, once again, he needs to stand to vertical posture, but I'm trying to knee pull in. I'm trying to get angles and stop that from happening. Now, once again, to solve the stability problem, he started to feel himself getting out of balance, I think, most likely. So he dropped down to his knees to overcome that stability. But because he's staying on his knees, he's having to fight continually being pulled forward into submission attempts. Now, that was a big thing that happened. Okay, it looks small. It looks like a small movement. Guys don't think a lot happened, but quite a bit, or that's a big piece. The fact that I got control of the posture. So I've been fighting like a dog to try to get Greg's posture back down, but Greg is, obviously good at keeping really good posture. After so long, I finally get it. I finally get the head down, and then I secure the posture control collar tie. So now I'm getting able to keep his posture down so I can start fighting my way into submissions. He's fighting up, but I'm still trying to hold on to that collar tie. So you guys see the fight is still going on for posture. Greg gets his posture back up, and I break it back down. Okay, now I'm starting to go into that top lock that we saw in a few previous classes. So I have the posture broken to 45 degrees, and the elbow must have been inside my hip. Now, how do we know the elbow is inside the hip? Okay, don't say just because you got to the top lock, but what is it about the top lock? What is it about the nature of the top lock that requires the elbow to be inside the hip?
Pulls the arm in.
Yes, the arm comes in, and that allows me to do what? Look at my right leg.
Get over my shoulder.
Yes, get over the shoulder. If Greg's elbow remains on the outside of my hip, then my leg is going to be blocked from coming up over the shoulder. His arm, with his elbow outside, blocks my leg from getting over his arm. But with the elbow inside my hip, my leg can go around the outside of his elbow and climb up to the shoulder. Okay, now Greg's been here once or twice before. He's not just going to give up an easy arm bar. He's still doing a good job. He's stacking me. Well, he's simultaneously stacking and posturing me, and this is how it's happening. Greg is keeping his hips heavy on the back of my knee, so that's keeping me into a tight stack. Simultaneously, he's using his back muscles to pull his head up, so he's fighting simultaneously for posture while he's stacking me. That's actually really, really good, and that's going to serve him well to get out of this arm bar. A simultaneously stack and fighting posture is super hard. The reason this is hard for me to complete is because of that posture. Greg's positioning right here, keeping me stacked on my left knee and keeping good posture with his head and shoulders, makes it tough for me to cross my ankles. I try to do it here a little bit, but you guys can see I'm barely able to actually secure my top lock with closed wedges right here. It's like I'm holding on with like a couple of my toes. Okay, that's not a very secure grip. So because I don't have a good control at the top lock, I can't take my collar tie away yet. If I take my collar tie away, I'm going to completely lose the posture because this is a weak top lock. So I have to have the discipline to remain on the collar tie until I feel like this top lock is secure. Now, because I can't secure the top lock, I'm going to go into another attacking strategy, and that's going back into the notion of off balancing. I'm going to use a leg pendulum. I'm going to use my right leg as a pendulum here. See how I'm throwing my leg to the mat? I'm going to do that to off balance. Now, I make a mistake in this, and Greg capitalizes on the mistake really well. As I try to throw my right leg to the mat, my hips separate from the shoulder. My hips are too far from the shoulder as I go to make a big leg pendulum to try to break his balance, and he's able to slip his elbow out. Now I've lost the attack, I've lost the arm bar. Anytime you guys are attacking an arm bar, you need your hips tight to the shoulder. When your hips are tight to the shoulder, that is a great way to control the position. Now to break it, to actually finish and break the arm bar, you need to get the elbow over your hip. So you need to get your hip under the elbow, okay? But for your initial control, to make sure you secure the position and keep your partner stuck, get your hips tight to the shoulder. In this case, I break that rule in an attempt to off balance him. And because I broke that connection, he's able to slip his arm free. So that was a really, really good hard fought battle between someone who knows how to put on armbar or the top lock and the armbar is not balancing well versus somebody else who knows how to keep posture and have good defense. So Greg holds inside position. We're once again in a grip fighting, hand fighting exchange. I'm trying to control his arms. He's trying to find base. Now this grip that Greg has, I love. I love this grip, okay? This is a great grip to stand up to vertical posture with because I don't have any use of my left arm. He's turned me into a one-arm person, and he has a strong base of support. So this 2-on-1 grip is a phenomenal tool to stand up from closed guard with. Now I'm able to free my wrist before Greg uses it to stand up, so he's still down on his knees. Now there's the inside position. He's standing up. Now, where's he going to want to go from here, guys?
To his feet.
Straight up. Vertical posture is where he's going to want to go. I'm climbing my hips, my legs high to try to keep his posture low. He wants to get his posture high. And he's starting to get his balance, but he stayed kind of really, really low. And then once again, I mean, he could just be working some closed guard stuff too. I don't know what's going on in Greg's mind. He very well could just be working closed guard. But if I were Greg in that scenario, I would have stood up straight up. Okay, now he's getting inside position. I'm starting to get posture control again, okay? So once again, we're fighting for posture. Let me go back. Look at how I'm moving his wrists. Gosh, there's so much good stuff here, guys. I'm excited about it. So here, he's using his hands as a base, so he's standing up. This is where I would go to vertical posture. He goes back to his knees. So now I have double wrist control, and I'm going to try to be moving his hands out of the way. So I have an advantage here in that I have control of both of his hands. I'm going to try to move his hands out of the way as I knee pull to break the posture. So you see I pushed his hands both to the right-hand side, to my right. I'm going to try to push both hands to the right there as I'm knee pulling to break the posture, and he fights his hands back inside so he can frame and keep his posture. So it's a fight for me to take out his arms as a base of support and knee pull, and him trying to, now he's framing against the mat. Okay, so once his hands came off me, I was able to finally get that posture broken. I'm starting to get hands behind his body now. I'm back to that collar tie that I really like in nogi grappling. Now you guys see I'm trying to get the elbow inside the hip again here. This is actually a perfect view for what I was talking about earlier. Why do you need the elbow inside the hip? With Greg's elbow outside my hip, you guys see that I can't get my leg over the shoulder. His upper arm, his humerus bone, is blocking me out. If this elbow comes inside my hip, now my leg is going to be free to move around the elbow. So we'll see if I can make it happen or not. Going to wrist, then going to elbow. Why did I go? That was interesting. Why did I go to wrist there for a second? I'm sure I had a reason. Oh, I go to wrist because Greg is controlling inside position. So I take his hand off the inside position a little bit. I get it off my shoulder, and then I go back to the elbow. Okay, so very nuanced stuff going on here. Greg is framing his hand on his head. That's really smart. That's really good. He's keeping his hand on his head to anchor his elbow in place outside of my hip. So I'm basically pushing against his skull. Now here that hand is breaking connection from his head. So let's see if I get the elbow inside. He starts standing up. There the elbow goes inside the hip. and I get up to the top lock. So Greg put his hands on my chest to try to stand up, which is not a bad move. I mean, he needs to stand up. But why can't he get up to vertical posture right now? Even if he wanted to.
Got my
If he
head.
wants to, what was that?
Got my head.
I got the head. I have the collar tie, which is going to ensure that I keep that posture controlled at 45 degrees. Or if you do go all the way up, in this case, which you do, I've talked about this with my students before. If you're on top, you never want your head lower than your hips. If your head is lower than your hips, that's not good. So in this case, Greg either needs to strip the collar tie and get his head up higher than his hips, or he's got to squat back down and get his hips lower than his head. One of those two things should be happening. Now, when he stood up, he put his hands on my chest, brought the elbow inside, so I'm able to lock my top lock. Now this is a bit more of a secure top lock. I still have the collar tie. Now, you guys are going to see me do that same off balance I did before. Remember before, what happened when I tried to off balance Greg? What happened before? You guys remember? What was that big thing you mentioned?
Extended my limb.
Yeah, your limbs get extended. But I lost the armbar. Why did I lose the armbar? Let me ask
Connection.
that. Yes, the connection. What connection?
Your hip to my arm.
Hip to shoulder, yes. So this time, let me see if I can stay a little tighter this time. So I'm using that same leg pendulum action to off balance, and now I'm able to break him down. So Greg doesn't go to his back. So Greg is smart. Greg tries to stay belly down in an athletic position where he can start to push off the mat with his feet, his knees, his hands, his elbows. This is another topic we've talked about before, is that when people are on their back, they don't have any athletic potential. Their athletic potential is incredibly limited as opposed to when they're face down. That's why when I attack an armbar from the bottom position, if the person on top is putting up a strong defense, they're still in an athletic position. So I try to, if I get the armbar right away, great. But if I don't, I try to put them onto their back. I try to put them down into a less athletic position, into a weaker position. That's why I'm trying to sweep. That's why I'm trying to pendulum. I'm trying to take him from a strong athletic position where he's on his hands, knees, feet, and elbows. I'm trying to put him on his back. Now, Greg knows this. Greg doesn't want to be on his back. He's a really, really strong wrestler. So he tries to stay on top. That's a good thing for him to do. He's still in a solid defensive position, but I think at this point I got the arm extended already. Okay, but by staying off of his back, he gave himself the best chance at escaping, I think. Alternatively, if he did go to his back, he should have gone right into like a hitchhiker escape or right into some escape. I mean, that was a bad spot there. Okay, so once again, Greg is allowing me to start with the advantage of having his posture controlled, and I let it go for some reason. I'd say that was a mistake on my part. I should have kept in the posture. All right, he's going to stand up. He's got that one leg up. He's keeping the left knee down. So he's switching from knee to knee, but he's never actually standing up to full posture. Or from foot to foot, one foot to the other, but he put both feet down. We're still hand fighting. And at this point, I think I realized, okay, I've spent the entire round in closed guard. Let me do something different. Let me open up my guard and let's play another part of the game. So I stand up. I see. All right, what do we have right here, guys?
Inside.
Inside position and
Leg hook.
a knee off the mat. Inside position and a knee off the mat is almost always going to give you extended limbs. So I have an extended limb here, inside position. So I'm going to try to go into the ashigarami. Greg does a really nice knee cut. And look at how this foot moves off my foot. So right now I still have inside position, but I'm losing it. And that foot eventually slips off my shin. So by driving forward aggressively with a knee cut, he was able to kind of strip me of my inside control. He was able to get his own leg back inside. Watch this. Right now his left leg is outside. When he goes to knee cut, I want you to see how his foot comes inside my right leg. And now I have no more ashigarami. So I spin back to guard. Now this is a very small, subtle thing, an important lesson. Now from here, you guys can see Greg is starting to lean back. If I have somebody who's leaning back, I go with them. I don't try to fight my opponent. I don't try to resist what my opponent's doing. So if my opponent's trying to pull back, I don't try to pull them forward so much. I'll push them back with them. And this gets a good off-balancing effect. Okay, so now this knee's starting to come off the mat. If I wanted to, I could try to go back into an ashigarami on that leg. But he stands all the way back up, so he has better balance. He has a wider base. So we're hand fighting, grip fighting, and then I get a 2-on-1 control here. So it's going to be not easy for Greg to get this arm back. Okay, it's not the most difficult thing in the world, but it's not easy either. So at this point, I'm probably going to try to put my left foot in the hip and try to pummel my right leg into a triangle. But Greg moves back and away too much. Okay, I do like that attack, this 2-on-1 and pulling into a triangle. So here I'd have to pummel my right leg to the inside. But Greg pulls back and away. And this is going to lead to another very important lesson that I want you guys to write down. This is an important concept. When your partner or opponent pulls away with their upper body, they can only do so by leaving their lower body in place. So when he goes back and away, I immediately get inside position with my feet again. And I was probably going to set up an entry to the ashigarami. But Greg did a good job of dropping his knees. He realized the danger of the ashigarami. So he pulls his upper body back and away. I go into the lower body, and he immediately puts the knees on the floor best he can to avoid the ashigarami. Now, I was able to use my right hook to keep this knee up. And he stands back up. So Greg didn't like that position. He stands back up. Greg, you remember this one?
Yeah, heel kicked you in the head.
That's right. Oh, that's this day. Greg, is just trying something different, trying something goofy. Basically, he's trying to do a misdirection thing, and he just axe kicks me right in the head. And then he falls down laughing because it's just kind of a fun thing. It was amusing. And now at this point, Greg is really nice. He feels bad about kicking me in the head, so he gives me a guard pass. He takes this is obviously a really poor position for Greg to hold himself in. He knows better than this, but I think he feels a little guilty. He feels bad, so he feels like he should give me a freebie. At least I know I do that sometimes. If I bump somebody, a lot of times I'll feel bad. I'll give them something. Oh, that's funny. And now I'm here going for my Kimura grips, and that's where the round ends. Oh, it's a funny exchange. But even though Greg is willingly giving me this pass, there is another important detail that I want to cover, and that's the importance of footwork in guard passing. When people are guard passing, they're thinking so much about their upper body grips. They're not thinking about precise, intricate movements with their legs. But that's a big part of guard passing. If you guys watch somebody like Rafa Mendes is probably the best example of somebody who has just amazing footwork. So if you guys go and watch like a Rafa Mendes guard passing highlight, you guys will see some fancy footwork, and you guys will see how much footwork can improve your guard passing. So here I'm going to use a cross step pass. I'm keeping Greg's knee controlled, pushing down. Again, he's kind of letting me have this position, but it's a good lesson anyway. So I want you to see how I'm precise with my footwork here to start to get an angle. Okay, a cross step and then another step. So don't get super yes, upper body and grips and coming in with pressure, that is important in passing. But people often overlook the importance of footwork, of good footwork. So here you see step, step, and that gets me an angle. I'm trying to keep Greg's hand pinned to the mat or down toward this side, so it's hard to turn into me. And now I'm going to start to try to fish my right hand behind his elbow for a Kimura grip, and that's where the round ends. So I've got a few solo exercises to do today. Since we got some extra time, I want to go back to the video and show you where these solo exercises come into place. So does anyone have any questions on the roll, actually, before we get to that? If anyone has any questions, please speak up. Okay, seeing none. The first drill, we've already worked it a ton. but we're going to work it more because it's super important, is leg pummeling, learning to fight for inside position with your legs. So looking back here at this first attack, this first submission attempt that I threw up, I used off balancing to force Greg to extend to his limbs, and I pummel my right foot to the inside position. I'll let you watch it a few times. My right leg, my knee pumps to my chest, or down to the floor really, to make space to pummel my leg to the inside. So learning to precisely pummel your legs is important. The second drill I'm going to have us work on is a closed guard stand-up. We saw Greg get a lot of opportunities to fight up to closed guard stand-up. So we're going to do this drill again where we fight to inside position. We get up to 2 feet, and then we build the habit of immediately up to full posture. We don't want to stand in a position like this where our head is still bent forward. We don't want to be on our feet and just hold that. Let me go back and find it there. We don't want to stand on our feet and just hold this broken posture typically. I advise getting fully upright as soon as you can. So we're going to work on that skill as well. Leg pummeling and standing up from the closed guard. Another one we're going to look at is leg pendulum. And this is the first time we looked at a leg pendulum. You guys are going to see me use leg pendulum in here to try to off balance Greg. And this is where I failed initially, where I lost the shoulder. I lost connection of hips to shoulder. So there's another one where it did fail, but had it succeeded, it would have looked more like this, where you guys are going to see I'm going to use my leg to generate momentum to off balance them. Without that leg pendulum trying to off balance them and put them down to that position would have been hell. I wouldn't have been able to do it. And if I wouldn't have been able to do that, I wouldn't have gotten the submission. So knowing how to use your legs to generate momentum to help you either move yourself or off balancing your opponent is important. So we're going to look at the notion of leg pendulums. Look at how I throw my right leg out wide to the mat, and I let the weight and momentum of my leg carry me up. Let's see. Number 4 I had on here. Let's see what this looks like. Around 506. I want to do, rocking chair rolls, candlesticks. Why is that? Where do I go into off here? Right, going into an ashi, I imagine. Yeah, okay. So core strength here. It's very important in guard that you are able to get your hips off the mat. We've been looking at body folding. So we're going to look at kind of a very closely related exercise to body folding. That's either doing rocking chair rolls or candlesticks. I'll show you what that is. With rocking chair rolls, it's very important that your back takes this shape. If I have my back flat, if I were to go down to my back, I'll just fall flat and stay there. Because of my spine has this rocking chair shape to it. When I throw myself back, it's going to be easy for the momentum of my body falling to help bring my hips off the mat, to help me go into ashigaramis. Another thing, if I didn't have this rocking chair motion or shape and my hips were on the ground, it would have been a lot harder for me to recover guard because my legs, rather than being here between me and Greg, would have been out here somewhere. So Greg might have even gotten a guard pass if I didn't have this ability to pull my hips off the mat. So we'll see that one more time in real speed. Rocking chair motion. Hips off the mat. It allows me to recover. And then number 5 that I want to work on is just some footwork drills. And you guys remember seeing that right here. It's important to, I talked at length about this, so I won't talk too much, but it's important to have good, precise footwork. It's important to know what's going on with your lower body just as much as what's going on with your upper body. I'll talk on that really quick before we go in. We spend our entire lives using our hands, our fingers, our arms, and our upper body for intricate tasks, for intricate, precise movements. It's very rare we do that with our legs and lower body. We use our legs and lower body for walking, for running, jumping, more big explosive movements that aren't precise. You need to learn to become precise with your legs. You want your legs to become as dexterous, as well controlled as your arms. Okay, so on that note, let's go and look at these 5 exercises. Hopefully you guys wrote them down or made a note of them. All right, the first exercise we're going to look at is leg pummeling. I'm just going to make sure that I mute everybody right now, because I've seen in the past that if somebody talks, it takes the screen away from me so people can't see the exercises. Okay, so once again, we've looked at this before, leg pummeling, where I'm on my back. Now we've seen leg pummeling in circles, right, where I'm going over the arms. I'm going over the top of the arms and back to the inside, over the top and back to the inside. Now, or we can go under the arm and back to the inside, under and back in. But today, we did more of a leg pendulum where I had to pull my knee down to the floor and shoot it back up. Okay? This motion is what I did. Now, if you guys want to do that exact motion, that's fine. But the general principle that I want you guys to understand is you have to learn to do very precise movements with your legs. Whatever you want your legs to do, you have to be able to make them do that. Okay? If we're pummeling over the top with the legs, good. That's good. If we're pummeling underneath with the legs, fine. If we're going knees to the armpits, so I can retract my leg, turn it up over the shoulder, and then go over the arm. Or maybe I want to go under the arm. Maybe I go back foot, and I go under the arm. So you can go like this too, okay? But the idea that you want to be very precise with the movement of your legs. Number 2, closed guard stand-ups. You guys are going to want to get in the habit of standing up to vertical posture right away in the closed guard. So we need to have a base of support in front of us. If I go to stand up just like this, any sort of knee pull or pull from my opponent will break me down. So we know we don't just want to reach our hands up toward the neck, because then we're going to get arm barred. So I generally advise inside bicep ties are really good. If it's gi, you can stand up with a sleeve grip, but inside bicep ties is fine. So just put your hands down, imagine you're holding your opponent's biceps in place. 1, 2, and then as soon as you're here, the second your second foot lands, you're up to vertical posture. You don't want to stay bent over like this, because this is just offering your neck and your arm to your opponent. When you get up to vertical posture, your arms, your shoulders, your neck are so far away from your opponent's legs and hips, the danger of upper body submissions is virtually non-existent. Okay, there are omoplatas, so I shouldn't say that, there are omoplatas, but they're not easy. So we're up to vertical posture. Now, if you guys remember, the danger of vertical posture, the risk, is being off balance, okay, being broken down backward. When you stand up to vertical posture, everybody's going to go for the double ankle sweep, or they're going to scoop into your ankles. Like it's super common. So you need to be ready for that too. So at the moment you get to vertical posture, I also want you kicking free of the ankle, of the double ankle sweep. So you're here, hands in, we're up. I immediately get up to vertical posture, and then all my weight comes over one leg. If I stay here with my head, my center of gravity symmetrically here between my 2 feet, if I go to kick, I'm going to lose my balance. If I take my center of gravity and I bring it over my one leg, now I can kick this leg up very easy, kick it back, and hold my position. So don't try to kick out from right here. Immediately go here, then kick out. So when we do this drill all at once, it'll look like this. I get inside position, I'm up, and I kick free of the double ankle sweep. We're down, we do it again. I pummel inside the arms, bicep pin, all the weight over one leg, we kick up, and then we're ready to break the guard open. But it has to be like that. You don't want to be standing with broken posture. Okay, one more time. Here. right there. Okay? That should be second nature to you in the closed guard. 3, leg pendulums. So the easiest way to start off with leg pendulums is just from your back. So I like to be a little bit on one side, so I'm not flat on my back. In this case, I'll be on my right hip a little bit. I'll use my top leg, and I'll throw my leg to the mat. When my leg gets halfway to the mat, I'm going to lock my core. It's very important that you lock your core on this. That way the momentum and weight of your leg going to the mat will pull your shoulders up. If I don't lock my core, it'll just be this. Okay? So I'm going to throw it. Halfway down, I'm going to lock my core, and the weight and momentum of the leg will help pull my body up without a lot of effort on your part. Okay? Do the same thing on the other side. I get to one side, I use my top leg, and I learn to let the weight and momentum of my leg carry my body. Now, in the case that I was using it today out of the arm bar, little trick here, I was inverted because I was going for an arm bar attack. Now, I take my cross-face leg, I throw it to the mat up to the side, and I let that pull my hips and my body in this direction. Now, once I'm here, I can either roll up into an arm bar, if for the case of attacking arm bar. Otherwise, if I'm going for a pendulum sweep, which is another very good technique in jiu-jitsu, I'd throw it to the mat, and then I would straighten it out of the way so I could come up on top into a mount position. So again, I'm inverted. My cross-face leg gets thrown to the mat, and then I can finish one of two ways. I can either come up into a seated position with outstretched legs, like I'm in an arm bar, or if you'd rather mimic a pendulum sweep, maybe you don't want to come up into an arm bar, but you want to come up into the mount. Then, rather than taking my cross-face leg and putting it back over the head, I'm going to move it out of the way. I go here, and now I move my cross-face leg out of the way, and I come up into the mount position. Here, attacking the arm bar, throw the leg, and I come up into the mount. Okay, so a couple leg pendulum exercises for you. We got the simple ones. Here, just learning to let the momentum and power of your leg carry you. Then we have inverted. Here, coming out there. Rocking chair rolls or candlesticks. Candlesticks are different. I'll describe the two. Rocking chair rolls are where I'm sitting and I just let my spine take the shape of the bottom of a rocking chair. Now when I roll back, it's important that I hold this position so that when my shoulders go down, my hips come up. Don't fall like this. Don't have both shoulders and hips on the mat. So this is really good for entering into Ashigarami. Okay, so it's really good for entering into Ashigarami. I'm back, and I roll in just like so. Okay, very simple. Candlesticks, if you want to add an extra layer of difficulty or an extra workout, is the process of work. I go down. I'm going to now extend my body when I come up to my shoulders, just like so. So you can think of hipping into an arm bar. You could think of getting your hip tight to their hip, okay, here. But the ability to get your legs and hips up closer to your opponent and lock onto your opponent, whether you're getting tight to the shoulder for an arm bar or tight to the hips for an Ashigarami. But if you rock back and you try to attack with your hips staying low like this, it's going to be hard to get up to the neck or the shoulder, okay, or the hip. So you got this, okay? So either just rocking chairs just to start, or if you want to add a little bit, straighten your body out. then the last one, footwork drills as it relates to passing. You could do a number of different patterns with your footwork drills. I'll show you guys a couple that I like. One, let's imagine I have an opponent right here. The head is toward you, and the feet are toward me. Imagine grabbing the ankles. I'm going to take a side step, and then I'm going to pivot 90 degrees around my left leg. Now the feet are going to be pointing this way, and I can start to come up toward my opponent's head and shoulders. So it's like a really quick 1-2, 1, and then I'm going to open the door. I'm going to swing my body open like a door. 2, okay? There. Work the other side. Here. Okay, working that for guard passing. Another one you can do is what I call a crescent step, where this time, rather than staying out here, where my opponent's hip is still up here, so I still need to get up toward the hip, I can step to the hip. I take my little side step out, and now this leg is going to kick around in an arc to kick around my opponent's feet and knees. So I go 1, 2. Now I'm going to be up by my opponent's hip. Now I can start to drop into knee on belly, and I can start to get to the head and shoulders. So I'm here, I'm controlling the ankles. 1, 2. Okay. 1, 2. And then you can do a third step with that last trail leg. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Work at both sides. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Again, we're looking at passing guard. One more really good footwork drill that I like to do with guard passing is a cross step. Once again, I'm trying to pass an opponent's guard. I'm still going to step my right leg to the crossed hip like we did with our crescent step. But this time I'm going to step right between the legs. So if their legs are right here, I go between the legs. I go over their leg and I step right down in the hip. Okay, so I'm here holding the legs just like so. One inside my legs, one outside my legs. And I step right into the hip. All right, very good footwork drill. So it's important that you learn how to maneuver your body very precisely, or your lower body, if you want to get good at guard passing. Okay, it's a big piece of it. Does anybody have any questions on the lesson today? Man, sweating, I should have worn a hoodie. Let's see. Can anyone share something that maybe they learned today that they didn't know earlier, or something that's stuck in their mind today?
Making sure to keep the hips tight to the shoulder to secure the arm bar.
That's a really important lesson. You know, Nick, sometimes if I have an arm bar, I'm in top, I have an arm bar just like so, on that note, and I'm trying to pull my opponent's arm back. Sometimes I'll stop trying to extend the arm if I feel the hips slipping away from if I feel their shoulder going away from my hips. And I'll scoot back in. I'll back heel with my legs, so my heels are going to pull from the other side. I just put my hand on the mat, and I scoot. So one arm stays hooked through, and I scoot. So yeah, tight with the hips to shoulders, just to secure the control for the arm bar is huge. I'm glad that stuck with you. Anyone else have anything?
Generally not good to be in your guard, on your back, around your legs, if you have to move anything.
Yes, especially with poor posture.
Yeah.
Especially on your knees. You don't want to stay on your knees inside closed guard generally. It's very, very hard to break open the closed guard when you stay on your knees. Not to mention you have to worry about submissions. I generally recommend getting up to both feet. Anybody else have anything that stuck with them today? Any bits of information that were like, oh, I never thought of that? All right.
I like, sorry, I was just going to chime in. I like the defense that Professor Nelson did with putting the hands on the head. I didn't think of that way. Keep
Yeah, and do you remember what that did, Ant?
Yeah, kept the elbow outside the hip.
That's right, it kept the elbow outside the hip. So I was trying to fight to get Greg's elbow back inside my hip, but he put his hand right here. So when I tried to push, his head prevented the elbow from coming in at all. That's a really good way to make sure you don't get armbarred. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's class. I hope you guys learned something, and we'll see you next week on Tuesday.
Awesome. Good times.
Thanks, Coach.
Always great.
Uh,